I think it's pretty easy to get wrapped up in some aspects of gardening, like the things that are perfect, the things we like to see, but I just don't think that's practical to how a lot of gardening is. And I wanted to bring you guys on a tour that talked a little bit more about destruction as opposed to growth in the garden. Just because right now I feel like we have a lot of things that are going wrong, and I wanted to just showcase that it's not always a beautiful sight in the garden. Sometimes there's things that you have to deal with, and there's different diseases and pests you come across. And I think it's important to basically explain those parts too, because a lot of people can jump into this and have no clue like we did, and then they deal with situations like this. So I just want to take you through and kind of explain what's been going on with the garden. We are at the tail end of August, and we are in a zone that usually will get its first frost by the 1st to 2nd week of October. So we're only looking about a month and a half, 2 months at most for our growing season. So right now we're dealing with a lot of pests, namely any kind of small rodents, some squirrels, some rats, that sort of thing. And quite frankly, they're pulling up some of our seed starts that we started for our fall planting. This is a lot of beets, a lot of radish, some spinach, and as you can tell even by the leaves themselves, rodents aren't the only thing that we're dealing with. We realize that cabbage moths are a thing that are all year round, and well, they are destroying all of our leafy greens. Likewise with the rodents, with birds, they are coming in and they're pulling up a lot of my beets. And now I hear they do this because of the water content in your root vegetables, but we have plenty of water options available to them, and it's still happening. So not really sure how I'm supposed to tackle that. Compost behind you, you can see, is directly correlating to the blank spaces that you see in the garden. And those blank spaces are pretty much things that are spent. They're going out for the season. And some of them came from this garden and some of them came from the past one. Namely that section there and that bed. So we are suffering with a lot of mildew right now, a lot of blight right now, and unfortunately a lot of those pests, a lot of those diseases are processed through bites from pests. So if you go around plants, sometimes you'll see leaves that look like that. And usually if a pest such as like a beetle or like anything caterpillar like that, if they come along, they'll bite a leaf that's infected, and when they move on to the next leaf, even if that leaf isn't infected, sometimes when they bite it, that will spread the disease. Now I will say not everything is suffering. My peppers here are doing fantastic. A lot of peppers are really disease resistant, to be honest, so they're a good option if you don't want to battle a lot of those issues. But with anything, since we're a little overgrown, I find some of my plants are struggling, just because I could definitely use some feeding for the soil, but this year we're not doing any fertilizers. We're just seeing how things go so we can gauge how things are in the future, essentially. Tomatoes, though, are certainly something that is being hit by that blight. We also have some mildew on it, and that can be very frustrating, especially because tomatoes should be realistically in their prime. I had some varieties too that, as you can see, just had a lot of flea beetle pressure. And sun has been an issue, heat has been an issue, humidity has been an issue. But what can I say? We have had certainly a big harvest from a lot of these plants. So right now I'm just a little bit bitter just because I want everything in my garden to be perfect. But of course, that's never how she goes. I did find though this year since I planted a lot more squash, a lot more pumpkins, and something like of those like family categories, powdery mildew is something we're deeply struggling with. And this is kind of what happens when the powdery mildew will take over. It will kill your leaf. And as mentioned with the pests, they're going leaf to leaf. Almost my entire crop is suffering. Now, I'm not too concerned because a lot of these guys here are ornamental, but when I am coming over, that's some stuff I weeded. When I do come over here, I'm having the same issue, and these are on my acorn squash. Now, my acorn squash, of course, we want to eat those, so I'm not being very optimistic with the size of my squash this year. I mean, they're only about palm size, and I would like them to be a little bit bigger. But we're still having a little bit of hope, and I have kept everything intact, so hopefully it does push forward. Oh, I wish this was going a little bit better, but we have an invasion, folks. Ants, aphids. I wish it was something that wasn't necessarily a year-round thing. I wish we could just deal with aphids in the spring, but alas, here we are in the corn patch. Everyone's looking kind of sad. I'm also filming this. We have a heat warning today here in Kingston, so I don't think a lot of things are too happy. Yeah. That's okay. Speaking of not too happy though, I'm struggling right now. I think it's sad to say that my mood is dependent on what I'm doing, but I find I have very extreme emotions, so when things get to a state of distress, when things get to a state of this much chaos, I don't know, for some reason I feel personally responsible, and I know that's something that's really silly because gardening is Mother Nature. I don't have control of that. I can only foster what is given to me. But it's hard. It's hard to see all of your little plant babies struggling. And I know I could do more. I know I could do fertilizers. Oh, rogue tomato. I know we could do amendments to our soil, and we just haven't. And I think next year we're definitely going to do that. Because having plants that look like this, it's just unsightly. Having empty beds, empty buckets, also unsightly. I personally believe in a good rotation, and not having a good rotation leaves you with a garden that kind of looks like this. It leaves you with a garden that has spaces, a lot of neglectful areas. Because if you don't stay on top of things, that's when things do explode, I guess, like this. Well, folks, I'm sorry this wasn't a cheery video, but I did just want to show that, again, it's not always cheery. Sometimes you have neighbors who mow at 8 p.m. I don't blame them. I'm out here working as well. It's a lot cooler now that it's later. Anyway, I could just rant because I'm kind of in that mood that I just wanted to pop on here and chat and show everyone around. It's kind of been an off day with the heat. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little destruction tour. But I'm going to go hang out with that guy. Bye for now.